Hi, welcome to Fiction Fingers Fairy Channel. Please subscribe to this channel for more interesting stories. And don't forget to like and share this video. Thank you. Feeling increasingly anxious, Tiara hastily dresses and rushes downstairs to the lobby, her heart pounding with worry. As Tiara hastily made her way through the hotel corridors, her footsteps echoing in the empty hallway, she couldn't shake the overwhelming sense of dread that consumed her. "Stay calm, Tiara," she murmured to herself, her voice barely audible above the pounding of her heart. "They have to be okay, they have to be." With each passing moment, her mind conjured up increasingly dire scenarios, each one more terrifying than the last. What if something terrible has happened to them? She fretted, her thoughts spiraling out of control. Tiara's breaths came in short, shallow gasps as she fought to keep her emotions in check. "Focus, Tiara," she urged herself, her voice tinged with desperation. "You need to find them. You need to make sure they're safe." As she reached the lobby, Tiara's eyes darted around frantically, searching for any sign of Dennis, Lisa, or Nancy. "Where are they?" she muttered, her hands trembling with anxiety. "Why aren't they here?" Her mind raced with 1,000 questions, each one more terrifying than the last. "What if they're hurt? What if they need help?" she wondered, her thoughts a whirlwind of fear and uncertainty. Tiara wastes no time and approaches the reception desk, her voice trembling slightly as she addresses the receptionist. "Excuse me, have you seen my friends, Dennis, Lisa, and Nancy? I can't seem to reach them and I'm really worried," she explains, her eyes pleading for any shred of information. The receptionist furrows their brow, concern mirrored in their expression as they shake their head. "I'm sorry, miss, we did not see them this morning. Perhaps they are still in their room," they reply sympathetically, their tone conveying genuine concern for Tiara's predicament. As Tiara continues to attempt calling Dennis, Nancy, and Lisa, only to be met with voicemail each time, her panic intensifies. She frantically dials their numbers repeatedly, hoping for even a faint glimmer of response. But the result remains the same: silence on the other end of the line. "Come on, pick up!" Tiara mutters anxiously, her fingers trembling as she redials their numbers yet again. With each failed attempt, Tiara's fear deepens, her mind swirling with worst-case scenarios. She struggles to keep her composure, the weight of uncertainty pressing down on her with increasing force. "I can't believe this is happening," Tiara murmurs to herself, her voice quivering with a mixture of fear and frustration. As the minutes tick by, Tiara's panic mounts, and she realizes that she must take decisive action to find her friends. As Tiara raced through the dimly lit corridors of the basement, her mind raced with frantic thoughts. Come on," she muttered to herself, her voice trembling with urgency. "They have to be here, they have to be safe." With each echoing footstep, her heart pounded louder in her chest, the sound reverberating through the empty space. "Stay focused, Tiara," she urged herself, her voice strained with fear. "You need to find them, no matter what." As she scanned the rows of parked cars, her breath caught in her throat at the sight of Lisa's vehicle. "Okay, one down," she whispered, her voice barely above a whisper. "But where are Dennis and Nancy?" Tiara's mind races with questions, her breaths coming in shallow gasps as she tries to piece together the puzzle of her friend's disappearance. She approaches Lisa's car, her hands trembling as she reaches for the door handle, hoping to find some clue or indication of what might have happened. As she peers inside the car, Tiara's heart sinks when she sees nothing out of the ordinary, no signs of struggle or distress. Her anxiety mounts with each passing moment, and she realizes that she must act quickly to unravel the mystery and find her missing friends. As Tiara turned away from Lisa's car, her jaw clenched with determination. "Focus, Tiara," she murmured to herself, her voice steady despite the turmoil raging within. "There must be something else here, some clue, some sign of where they could be." Her eyes darted around the dimly lit basement, each shadowy corner holding the promise of a potential lead. "Keep calm, keep focused," she reminded herself, her breaths coming in short, determined bursts. "You can do this, you have to do this." With each step she took, Tiara's resolve hardened, her determination driving her forward despite the fear that threatened to consume her. As she combed through the rows of parked cars, her mind raced with possibilities. "Think, Tiara, think," she urged herself, her voice a quiet mantra of determination. "Where would they go? What would they do?" But as she reached the end of the row, her heart sank at the absence of any further clues. "Nothing," she muttered, her voice tinged with frustration. "There's nothing here." With a heavy heart, Tiara pressed on, her footsteps echoing through the empty space as she refused to give up hope. "There has to be something," she insisted, her voice ringing with defiance. "I won't stop until I find them." Feeling overwhelmed by the mounting worry and uncertainty, Tiara retreats to the lobby, seeking a moment of respite to gather her thoughts. She sinks into a nearby chair, her mind racing with concern for her missing friends. With each passing second, the weight of the situation presses down on her, leaving her feeling helpless and vulnerable. As she tries to calm her racing thoughts, Tiara is startled when Harry suddenly appears before her, breaking the silence with his presence. She looks up, her eyes wide with surprise and apprehension, unsure of what to expect from their unexpected encounter. "Harry?" Tiara says, her voice tentative as she regards him with a mixture of curiosity and wariness. "What are you doing here?" Harry offers Tiara a sympathetic smile, his expression mirroring her own concern. "I heard about your friends," he explains softly, his tone filled with genuine empathy. "I wanted to see if there was anything I could do to help." Tiara's initial surprise gives way to a flood of conflicting emotions as she struggles to process Harry's unexpected offer of assistance. Despite their complicated history, she can't deny the sincerity in his words, and a part of her is grateful for his concern. "Thank you, Harry," Tiara says, her voice wavering slightly as she tries to maintain her composure. "I appreciate your offer, I'm just really worried about them." Harry nods understandingly, his gaze reflecting his genuine concern for Tiara's well-being. "I understand," he says softly, his words laced with empathy. "Is there anything I can do to help?" Tiara hesitates, torn between her desire to accept Harry's assistance and her lingering apprehension about their past. After a moment of contemplation, she realizes that she can't afford to let pride or resentment stand in the way of finding her friends. "Actually, yes," Tiara says. "Maybe we can start with you getting brunch first. Since you skipped your breakfast," Harry suggested with genuine concern etched on his face. "Then, we can start our search." Tiara nodded gratefully, acknowledging the wisdom in Harry's suggestion. "That sounds like a good idea," she replied, her voice tinged with relief. "I could definitely use something to eat before we dive into searching for them." Together, they made their way to the restaurant located within the resort. As they sat down to eat, Harry continued to offer words of comfort and reassurance to Tiara, sensing her lingering anxiety about her missing friends. "Perhaps they had an emergency or something urgent came up and they didn't have a chance to inform you," Harry suggested gently, his tone soothing. "Let's try not to jump to conclusions until we have more information." Tiara nodded in agreement, grateful for Harry's calming presence and his rational perspective on the situation. "You're right," she admitted, taking solace in his words. "I just can't shake this feeling of worry." After finishing their meal, Tiara made another attempt to contact Dennis, Nancy, and Lisa, only to be met with voicemail once again. The sense of unease that had been lingering within her intensified, causing her to feel dizzy once more. Concerned, Harry immediately noticed Tiara's discomfort and gently suggested that she return to her room and rest. "Tiara, you don't look well," Harry said, his brow furrowed with worry as he reached out to support her. "Maybe it's best if you go back to your room and take a rest. We can continue trying to reach your friends later." Tiara nodded weakly, acknowledging Harry's concern and realizing that he was right. "Okay, Harry," she agreed, her voice tinged with exhaustion. "I think that's probably a good idea." With Harry's assistance, Tiara made her way back to her room, each step feeling heavier than the last. As she settled onto the bed, the weight of worry and uncertainty pressed down on her, making it difficult to relax. As Tiara lay on the bed, the heaviness in her head intensified, causing the room to spin around her. Each movement felt like a struggle as she tried to fight off the overwhelming dizziness. Despite her efforts to stay awake, fatigue overtook her, and she drifted into a restless slumber. After sleeping for several hours, Tiara is jolted awake by the sound of footsteps in her room. Confusion and alarm wash over her as she slowly opens her eyes, struggling to make sense of her surroundings. "Dennis, is that you?" Tiara calls out tentatively, her voice laced with hope and uncertainty. "Nancy, Lisa, Harry?" She tries again, her heart pounding with anticipation, but there is no response. As Tiara's eyes adjust to the dim light, she scans the room, searching for any sign of her friends or the source of the mysterious footsteps. With each passing moment, her anxiety mounts, and she can't shake the feeling of unease that grips her. "Dennis? Nancy? Lisa? Harry?" Tiara calls out once more, her voice tinged with desperation as she waits for a reply, but the room remains eerily silent, save for the echo of her own voice. As Tiara rises from her bed and makes her way towards the door of her room, her heart races with a mix of fear and determination. Suddenly she feels a sharp impact against her head, causing her to gasp in pain and clutch at her throbbing skull. Confusion and panic grip her as she struggles to maintain her balance. "Ouch!" Tiara cries out, her voice trembling with shock and anguish as she feels a warm liquid trickling down her forehead. With trembling hands, she reaches up to touch the source of the sensation, her fingers coming away sticky with blood. Fear courses through her veins as Tiara's vision blurs and darkness closes in around her. She fights against the encroaching blackness, desperately trying to stay conscious, but the pain and disorientation overwhelm her senses. "Help!" Tiara calls out, her voice barely a whisper as she staggers backwards, her legs giving way beneath her. She reaches out blindly, searching for something to hold on to, but her strength wanes with each passing moment. As her vision fades to black, Tiara's last thought is one of fear and uncertainty. Unsure of what awaits her on the other side of unconsciousness, the sound of her own ragged breathing echoes in her ears as she succumbs to the darkness, her world reduced to nothingness. Darkness. Tiara's eyelids flutter open and she finds herself in an unfamiliar place. Confusion clouds her mind as she takes in her surroundings, trying to make sense of where she is and how she got there. With a deep breath, she steadies herself and begins to explore, her footsteps echoing softly in the silence of the unknown. "Where am I?" Tiara murmurs to herself, her voice tinged with uncertainty as she casts her gaze around the unfamiliar environment. With each step she takes, her heart pounds louder in her chest, the sense of disorientation weighing heavily on her. To be continued.